What if I told you that on the other side of the Pacific, people live their everyday lives in ways that would leave most Americans blinking twice, then saying, wait, that's normal here. From slot machines in your local pub to schools that won't let kids outside without a hat, Australia isn't just another English-speaking country. It's a parallel universe with its own playbook. And before you think this is just about kangaroos or accents, think again. We're diving into 12 everyday Aussie habits that would make most Americans go, no way. Oh, and stick around, because halfway through, you'll hear about one tradition so strange, yet so wholesome, it's hard to believe it's real. You might even be tempted to try it where you live. Let's start in the most innocent place possible, the supermarket. But trust me, it's not the supermarket you're used to. Imagine walking into your local grocery store. You expect milk, bread, maybe a bag of Doritos. But in Australia, the shelves tell a different story. First, there's an entire altar dedicated to Tim Tams, Australia's favorite chocolate biscuit. Not just one or two flavors, but rows of them. Double coat, caramel, white chocolate, dark. And yes, there's even a special way to eat them called the Tim Tam Slam, where you bite off opposite corners and sip your coffee or hot chocolate through it like a straw. And then you hit the egg section. And your brain short circuits. The eggs aren't in a fridge. They're just sitting there. Australians will calmly tell you it's fine because their egg production process avoids the washing and bleaching that strips away a natural protective coating. So refrigeration, optional. To an American used to chilled cartons, it's almost unsettling. Then come the snack aisles, bags of Twisties, a corn snack that looks like a Cheeto but tastes like, well, a cheesy, tangy mystery. And Smith's chips in flavors that make you stop and read the bag twice. Chicken, tomato sauce, even lamb and mint. Here's where I'll throw it to you. What's the weirdest thing you've ever found in another country's grocery store? Drop it in the comments, because this is just the beginning of the Aussie oddities. Up next, imagine someone walking barefoot into that same supermarket and nobody bats an eye. Picture this. You're in line at the grocery store and the person in front of you has no shoes on. Not flip-flops, not sneakers, just bare feet, toes out, casually scrolling on their phone. In Australia, this is so normal it barely registers. From kids running around barefoot at school to adults popping into shops shoeless after a beach trip, or even in the middle of the city. It's part of the laid-back lifestyle. Some say it's about comfort, others about connection to the ground. And while an American might look for a no shoes, no service sign, in Australia, good luck finding one. Of course, health and safety rules still exist in certain places, restaurants for example, but overall, the barefoot life is alive and well. And it's not just for summer. You'll see it year-round in some coastal towns. So, here's your audience challenge. If you had to do all your errands tomorrow barefoot, would you be fine with it? Or would it drive you crazy? Let me know below. Next, let's talk about something that would shock Americans not because it's wild, but because it's weirdly friendly. In the US, calling someone old or grandpa outside of family can sound rude. But in Australia, saying the oldies when talking about your parents, or even grandparents, is affectionate. It's the Aussie way of softening the conversation, not insulting anyone. And it doesn't stop there. You might hear my old man or my old lady in casual chats, even from teenagers talking about their parents. Combine that with the Aussie tendency to shorten everything. Afternoon becomes arvo, sunglasses become sunnies, and you've got a culture where casual language is the default. This doesn't mean Australians are careless with their words. If anything, slang is a sign you're in the circle. It's a subtle cultural marker. You're relaxed, approachable, part of the crew. It's also the first hint that Aussie slang is its own universe, and we're about to step right into it. If you land in Australia thinking you'll understand everything because they speak English, prepare for your brain to work overtime. Aussie slang is rapid-fire, funny, and sometimes makes zero sense to outsiders. Take yeah nah, it means no, but it can also mean yes, but depending on the tone. Or fair dinkum, a way to say something's genuine. Chunder means to throw up, dead horse is tomato sauce, and arvo is afternoon. And the wild part? Aussies will drop 3 or 4 slang terms into a single sentence without blinking. It's not just words, it's rhythm. Aussie speech dances between casual and sarcastic, with nicknames for people and places popping up everywhere. Your neighbor John might forever be Smithy. The McDonald's down the road? That's Macus. Here's a fun test for the viewers. If you had to guess what having a yarn means, what would you say? Drop your guesses below. Bonus points if you've ever actually used the phrase. Now, speaking of talking, let's go to a place Americans rarely do. A friendly chat with your bus driver. In many American cities, stepping onto a bus is a silent transaction. Swipe your card, find a seat, avoid eye contact. But in Australia, there's a good chance you'll hear, "G'day, how you going?" from the driver, and you're expected to respond. It's common to thank the driver when you get off, whether you're in a small town or the middle of Sydney. And if it's a slower route, don't be surprised if you end up having a little chat about the weather, the traffic, or the footy score. It's not forced friendliness, it's just the culture. This small gesture adds a sense of community to public transport that feels almost unthinkable in many U.S. cities. So, here's a fun audience prompt. If you've ever thanked a bus driver, tell me where you're from in the comments. Let's see which country has the friendliest commuters. And speaking of public spaces, let's jump to one everyday Aussie habit that would make Vegas casinos jealous. In the US, slot machines are something you expect in Las Vegas or Atlantic City. But in Australia, poker machines are a common sight, inside pubs, clubs, even small-town watering holes. These aren't hidden in back rooms, they're front and center. For many Aussies, grabbing a beer and having a quick flutter is part of the social experience. It's so ingrained that an American walking into a local pub might think they've accidentally stumbled into a mini casino. There's a flip side. Australia has one of the highest gambling participation rates in the world, so pokies are also part of an ongoing national conversation about regulation. But love them or hate them, they're a staple of the Aussie social scene. Here's a viewer engagement nudge. Would you be okay with your neighborhood bar having slot machines? Or would that feel too weird? Drop your thoughts below. From flashing lights and jackpots, we're heading straight to something a lot more wholesome, but still unexpected. If you grew up in the US, recess usually meant running outside without much thought to sun exposure. In Australia, the sun is taken seriously. Many schools have a strict no hat, no play policy. If a student doesn't have a hat, they can't join outdoor activities. It's not about being overprotective, it's about skin safety. Australia has one of the highest rates of skin cancer in the world, so teaching sun-smart habits early is a priority. You'll also find sunscreen dispensers at school entrances, parks, and even sports fields. It's a cultural norm that surprises visitors, but for Aussies, it's just part of growing up. And it's a perfect example of how geography shapes everyday rules. So to the viewers, would you have followed the no hat, no play rule as a kid? Or would you have been in detention every summer? Let me know. And now, from wide-brimmed hats, we're lifting our eyes to something older than Australia itself. Stories written in the stars. Long before GPS or Google Maps, Aboriginal Australians navigated vast landscapes using the stars. And here's the mind-blowing part. These stories, constellations, and sky maps are some of the oldest continuous astronomical traditions in the world, stretching back tens of thousands of years. It's not just about naming stars. It's about reading the sky like a living calendar. Certain star patterns signal when food is ready to harvest, when animals migrate, or when the seasons are about to shift. One famous example is the emu in the sky, not made of stars, but of the dark dust lanes between them, completely invisible to most Western traditions. For Americans used to seeing Orion or the Big Dipper as the main show, standing under the southern sky in Australia feels like stepping into another universe. Audience challenge. What's the most stunning thing you've ever seen in the night sky? Drop it below. Bonus points if you've spotted the Southern Cross. And speaking of nature, let's bring it back down to earth, or rather sand. In Australia, the beach isn't just a vacation spot, it's part of the weekly routine for millions of people. With over 10,000 beaches along the coast, there's one for every taste. City beaches where you can grab a latte on the way, hidden coves with crystal clear water, and surf spots that draw riders from all over the world. What catches Americans off guard is how casual it is. Business meetings might end early because the surf's good today. Entire towns seem to slow down when the weather's perfect. And unlike the US, where some beaches are private or have high entry fees, Australian beaches are overwhelmingly public and free. It's not just for summer either. You'll see winter surfers in wetsuits catching waves when the water feels icy by American standards. Viewer prompt. If you lived 15 minutes from the ocean, how many times a week would you actually go? Be honest. And after a long beach day, you might expect to grab an iced coffee. But in Australia, there's a twist. In the US, iced coffee usually means a fresh brew poured over ice from your favorite cafe. In Australia, one of the most popular ways to have it is straight from a pre-made carton. Brands like Farmers Union Iced Coffee in South Australia are cult favorites. It's sweet, milky, and closer to a coffee milkshake than a bitter cold brew. People grab them from gas stations, supermarkets, and vending machines. In some regions, this drink outsells Coca-Cola. Yes, really. For an American, the idea of gas station iced coffee might sound questionable. But in Australia, it's a beloved everyday pick-me-up. So here's my quick poll. Would you try carton iced coffee, or would you stick to your Starbucks order? And now, for the finale, we've got two more Aussie quirks. One that involves public barbecues you don't have to pay for, and one that's literally about the sound of silence. In the US, a public park might have a grill, but you're bringing your own charcoal, utensils, and maybe even paying a rental fee. In Australia, many parks, beaches, and picnic spots have free electric BBQs. Just press a button and start cooking. They're clean, well-maintained, and ready for anyone to use. Families fire them up for weekend breakfasts. Surfers cook sausages after a morning in the waves, and travelers use them for a quick meal without spending a cent on gas or gear. It's such a simple thing, but it completely changes how people use outdoor spaces. Imagine road tripping across the US and never needing to carry a stove because free grills are waiting at almost every stop. Engagement moment. If your city had free public BBQs, what's the first thing you'd cook? And now, for our final twist, it's about something Australia doesn't have much of. In America, even small towns hum with background noise, traffic, sirens, music, people. But step into the Australian outback and you'll find something almost unsettling. Pure silence. No cars, no buzzing streetlights, just the faint rustle of wind through spinifex grass and maybe the distant call of a bird. It's so quiet that your own footsteps sound loud. Travelers often describe it as both peaceful and eerie, like the world has stopped moving. For Australians, this stillness is part of the country's identity. For Americans, it's an entirely different sensory experience. Final viewer prompt. Would you love the total silence, or would it drive you crazy after a few hours? Australia isn't just about kangaroos and koalas. It's about these little cultural quirks that change how people live day to day. Some are charming, some are surprising, and some might even make you wonder why they're not common everywhere. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe for more culture deep dives, and tell me in the comments which Aussie quirk you'd steal for your country.